Hey guys, Bazerkins here for another video. Today we're going to be doing a special build spotlight, something that I normally wouldn't do. This is definitely the first one I've done on this YouTube channel. And I'm joined by Shakakan. We're actually going to be looking at his point of view through his Discord stream. Go ahead and say hi, Mitch.
Hey guys.
All right, today's build spotlight is something related to a wowhead article that I had witnessed about a day ago. And this is based around the Skybreaker's Fiery Demise legendary, which is actually for an elemental shaman, but we're going to be utilizing it as an enhanced shaman today. This is some crazy stuff. And we're looking at a sustained AoE build, optimal target range around 4 to 6. It does fall off beyond 6, but as you'll see from our sims, your damage is so high that even in a 10 target environment, you're probably still going to be going toe to toe with some of the stronger AoE situations. There will be some clear pros and cons. We'll go over that as well. But let's go ahead and take a look at the synergies. Mitch, go ahead and take a look at your legendaries. So the first one is going to be the Venthyr legendary effect. This will make it to where your Chain Harvest applies Flame Shock to all the targets that it hits. Um, and then it reduces its cooldown by 5 seconds when it quickly strikes. That's part of Chain Harvest's base thing as well. But what's really interesting, go back to the go back to that. So when Flame Shock critically strikes with this legendary on, it reduces the cooldown of Chain Harvest by 1 second, right? The other legendary we're using is an Elemental Shaman legendary, and that's increasing the Flame Shock critical strike chance by 50%. So what this is going to do is effectively, as long as we're stacking crit on our enhanced shaman, it's going to effectively make our flame shock 90+% critical strike opportunities, right? So very high crit chance on our flame shock. We're going to try to get that as close to 100% as we possibly can, so that we can get to a point now where every single time flame shock crits, it's going to reduce the cooldown by 1 second. Now, flame shock can be applied to 6 targets maximum, so that's why I'm saying it falls off after 6 targets, because you're not going to see any more cooldown reduction from chain harvest, and chain harvest itself only applies damage to 5 targets, right? So it's a very capped build, but it is the strongest 5 target simulation build that I've seen so far out of any class and any spec. So it's very strong. Really serious stuff here. But it's a very niche build, right? Because you can probably, I mean, you're going to be able to set up better, 10 target sims for other specs. You're going to be able to set up way better single target, way better single target builds than this. This is not good in single target whatsoever. But what it is really strong at is 4 to 6 targets. That's where it's absolutely insane, and you're not going to see better damage from any spec in a 6 target environment. So, Mitch, we're going to go ahead and set up the target dummies here. Just so you guys know from our testing methodology, we have the tier set on the shaman. There is no synergies whatsoever between the tier set and what Shaka Khan is doing on these target dummies. But just for the sake of explaining what the tier set does, it gives you a 3% chance per stack of Maelstrom weapon to summon a Feral Spirit for 9 seconds. And then those Feral Spirits have a 20% chance when they attack to trigger Stormbringer, resetting the cooldown on your Storm Strike. Okay. So pretty strong. I've had some issues. Mitch has complained several times about this tier set because it's a little too single target oriented. But it doesn't matter for this build, right? We're just basing this around the double Legos. Mitch, go ahead and pull up the talents as well, so we can go over what talents we're selecting. So we've got Lashing Flames first. This is going to make it to where your Lava Lash now increases the damage of Flame Shock on its current target by 100% for 20 seconds. The playstyle that we're basing this around, what we want to really focus on is tab targeting, or selecting different targets that have Flame Shock on them currently, and using our Lava Lashes on them to increase the damage of Flame Shock by 100%. You never want to use Flame Shock on the same target in an AoE situation until this buff falls off of them, the Slashing Flames debuff. Okay, so that's the way that works. And then we go over to Hot Hand. And the way this works is your melee auto attacks with a Flame Tongue weapon active have a 5% chance to reduce the cooldown of Lava Lash by 75% and increase the damage of Lava Lash by 100%. This is going to effectively give us more opportunities to proc Lashing Flames on our targets by tab targeting using Lashing Flames, getting that extra Flame Shock damage on things. And then the third talent that we're going to be really focused on is Fire Nova. This is going to further accentuate our strength in a 6 target environment. or 4, 5, 6. I can guarantee you the actual global Fire Nova, pressing this every 13 seconds is this is actually based on haste. So the higher amount of haste you have, the more Fire Novas you're going to get. This is going to be really insane with the Relic. In Mythic Plus for the new encrypted affix, you're going to probably be able to fire off 3 Fire Novas within a span of 20 seconds with all the CDR that you're going to be getting. It's going to be really insane how much damage Fire Nova is going to be doing. So that part's really interesting. It's going to scale very well with cooldown reduction with the encrypted affix. But you're going to be wanting pressing this every single time it's up. Like the global, it appears in an AoE environment, you're going to want to use Fire Nova. And that's because you're going to be chaining all of those flame shocks with the Fire Nova and getting a tremendous amount of damage with each time you press this button. Okay? So, Mitchell, let's go ahead and start whacking on the target dummies. A couple of things to keep in mind before we start. The damage of this build is not going to change if the targets don't change. So you're going to burst for a certain amount, and the damage is not going to fall very far below that, and it's going to stay at the same level. And the number 2 point to keep in mind here, guys, is Mitch is going to be focusing on switching targets for his lava lashes. If you go into the PTR and you test this yourself and you're not switching targets for your lava lashes, you're going to see a fairly significant amount of damage loss from that. So you have to play this properly if you're looking to get the most damage out of it. Okay, go ahead and start, Mitch. We're just going to open up, generate some Maelstrom weapon here. Fire off our first Chain Harvest. You see we burst all the way up to above 30k on a 5-target sim. This is really high for 5 targets in the PTR because, again, our item level is only 253. We've tested Fury Warrior, Marksman Hunter, Warlock, Survival Hunter. We've tested so many different specs on here already, and this is the highest 5-target sim we've been able to muster over a sustained period. So again, we're just flame shocking. We're lava lashing a different target every single time, and you can see from our chain harvest cooldown on his action bar, it's the number 4 button on his bar. The cooldown of it is absolutely insane. He's firing off chain harvest every 15 seconds or so here. That's a 1.5-minute cooldown that's being reduced. If you have the encrypted affix in your key and you're running the for cooldown reduction, you're likely going to get chain harvest every 6 to 7 seconds for that 10-second period, and then it's cooling down like normal. So a tremendous amount of burst damage, and then as you chain harvest as well, with group buffs and all that, it's probably going to chain heal, or excuse me, it's also going to heal your allies for 8 to 9k as well. So that off healing is something that you cannot dismiss. But as you can see from our sustained damage here, we're at 24k constantly, right? Mitch's gear is not in any way optimized. He has terrible trinkets for this test. His secondary stats are not optimized, but we are absolutely blasting. Now, that's not to say that you can't go in, find a build that's going to do more damage than this in the PTR. That's not the point of this. We're looking at the damage relative to where his gear is at and how consistent that damage is. We have yet to find something better than this. Very, very strong build on 5 targets. We're going to sim this for probably another minute or so, just to show you guys how consistent the chain harvest is, right? We're seeing this thing go off consistently every 15 to 20 seconds in a 5-target environment. Obviously, this is not realistic for like a Mythic Plus. You're not going to, have a 6-minute trash pack. You're going to be going from pack to pack that changes in size each time. Usually, some trash packs will be 8 targets. Some will only be 2 or 3. But this is a very strong niche build that allows you to do a tremendous amount of damage to 5 or 6 targets when you're waiting for the next big rush of cooldowns for a very large pack where maybe some other spec can carry, right? So this has a very clear niche on it. You can also see the damage, guys, from the Fire Nova. It's doing about 8k per target. We're going to go over that on the damage meter. Show you guys how much damage that Fire Nova is doing on 5 targets. Again, this is not a 6-target environment where Fire Nova would be capped, so we're actually missing a little bit of damage there. but our damage has not gone down at all. Massive burst there from the chain harvest. We're now above 24k after going down to 22 there for a little bit. We've, been at this for a little bit. So when you spike above 24k, when you've been at 22, some huge damage just took place. Almost getting back up to 25 actually. All right, let's go ahead and stop the sim here. We're close to 25. Everyone's got a pretty good idea of what's happening. All right, go ahead and pull up the damage meter here. So as you can see, our main carriers here are Chain Harvest and Flame Shock, with Fire Nova kind of trailing a little bit behind there. You're going to see that Fire Nova actually spike up to about the same damage as Chain Harvest when you add a sixth target. It's huge when you get that sixth target for Fire Nova, right? Because right now it's only hitting 5 targets. When you increase that extra target, it's going to be hitting for about, I think, 12k more damage with that global, which really spikes it up quite a bit higher. Um, so yeah, you can see the critical hits here of about 40%. That's actually a little bit lower than we've seen it before. But on average, it's hitting for 2,000. Now, you may think to yourself, wow, I mean, that's not very much damage. Go back to the Fire Nova thing. It's only 2,000 damage on a talent selection. You only hit that for 6 targets. It's only a 12k global. That damage is actually hitting, um, in this case, 5 times for each enemy, basically, right? So if you have 5 enemies, it's going to be hitting 35 times, because, or excuse me, 25 times, because each enemy emits their flame shock nova from the fire nova and hits the other 5 targets, right? So it's going to be 25 hits every single time you cast it. That's why we end up with the math: 19 casts, 475 hits. So, uh, essentially what it's doing is it's 2k times 25. It's a 50,000 damage global, basically. Tremendous amount of damage. Then you look at the flame shock. We're getting 1,300 on average damage. The critical hits here, 89.4%. We were testing this earlier with a Kyrian Guardian Druid, where I would link with him and give him extra crit, 8% passive, and then the empowerment with Mechanicos would bump it up to the level where his critical hits on Flame Shock were at 99.1, 99.2%, around that area. That's where this build is the most broken, when you can get your crit to essentially 100% for Flame Shock. Um, just completely insane at that point, because the Chain Harvest really is a 12 to 15 second cooldown at that point. And then you have Chain Harvest itself, which, yeah, so critical strike chance here, 59%, 41% normal hits, on average doing 19k damage, but you can see from the damage breakdown here, it crit for as much as 26k on the target dummies. This is incredibly consistent. So if you're moving from pack to pack, like if it's a plus 15 pug and that's really all you're into, this build's going to be really strong because the tanks aren't doing anything crazy. You just want to plow through intermittent pack sizes. This is going to absolutely crush stuff like that, right? So very, very strong niche on this build. You're seeing the pros kind of show themselves. In a 5 target sim, this is really strong. However, Mitch, do you want to go over the clear con here? Because the single target in this build has been pretty lackluster.
Yeah, I'm only able to sustain about 7k single target with this build. It doesn't really get any lower than that because just the nature of it. I mean, you're still getting a lot of cooldown reduction from your flame shock to your chain harvest, but compared to other builds like say a night fae shaman running like the wolf bones, you're not gonna compete single target.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
pretty lackluster.
right. To just give you guys an example, because 7K, I mean, it's so variable based on your gear and different factors. To put it into context, you're going to understand. Um, when we were testing Enhancement Shaman on single target with kind of the go-to projected 9.2 single target build, which is the Night Fae enhancement with the Witch Doctor's Bones legendary. Go ahead and pull those up real quick, actually, in your legendary powers, so people can see what the heck I'm talking about. Yeah, so you've got Witch Doctor's Wolf Bones. This is going to increase the chance to gain a stack of Maelstrom Weapon by 3%. And whenever you gain a stack of Maelstrom Weapon, the cooldown of Feral Spirits is reduced by 2 seconds. And then go to your Covenant Legendary real quick. Should be down there. We scroll. Yeah, Seeds of Rampant Growth. Okay, so each pulse of this will give you crit, and it will reduce the cooldown of Feral Spirit by 9 seconds. So essentially, what you're doing is you're reducing the cooldown of your Feral Spirits as far as you possibly can go, and that synergizes really well with your tier set. That's kind of like the apex of single target builds for enhancement so far in the PTR. You're running the Elemental Spirits talent. You're running, I think, Elemental Assault for that build, along with Forceful Winds, right, Mitch? Or is it Elemental Blast?
I'm still not sure. I'm pretty sure you're still running forceful winds, but I'm not 100% on
Yeah.
that.
But the point I'm trying to make here is that's kind of like the go-to single target build, and with this exact same gear that Mitch is wearing, essentially the same item level, same weapons, all that, we were getting sims above 10k for single target damage with Enhancement Shaman at that point. So to give you a rough estimate, this build in a single target situation is going to do roughly 70% of the damage you could do if you were optimized for single target. But obviously, you're going to make up for that loss of damage in single target by providing a tremendous amount of value in intermittent packs as well as off healing that allows your healer to do more damage. So it's something to think about. You're probably not going to want to run this build on a tyrannical week if you don't have other other players within your group who can kind of carry the single target, so that you can kind of move on to the next trash pack and begin to carry from there. It is a niche build. It's not a one size fits all type of situation. But if you have a need within your push group, or if you just find this to be really fun, and trust me, it is a blast to play. If you're looking for a intermittent pack kind of blow up build that can get you through Mists of Tyrna Scythe really quickly, can get you through Plaguefall, for example, where you don't have a lot of huge pulls, but there's a lot of medium-sized pulls throughout the dungeon. This is really, really strong. So definitely recommended. I would say a S plus AOE build and a D minus single target build. That's kind of how it goes sometimes, guys. But yeah, this has been the build spotlight for the Skybreaker's Fiery Demise slash Venthyr Lego build. We should probably come up with a pretty cool name for it, but it's too late now. Any closing thoughts there, Shaka Khan?
Just the 2 million. Just the 2 million in overhealing in 4 minutes. No big deal.
Yeah, I can't wait for the video of the first group that decides to run like 3 enhancement shamans with this build and just crush like a plus 25 miss with it or something. Definitely gonna be hilarious. But yeah, the off healing on this just can't be dismissed, guys. It's so much extra healing for your group. To be able to rip a chain harvest every 20 seconds is really gonna free your healer up to do more damage. Yeah, this has been Bowserkins and Shaka Khan checking out the build. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please jump on the PTR and give it a shot if you haven't yet. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.